Hello again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Silver Bullion Television, SBTV. I'm your host, Patrick Vieira. Today, we have with us Claudio Grass, who is the Mises Ambassador and Independent Precious Metals Advisor based out of Switzerland. He is a passionate advocate of sound money, which he believes is inextricably linked to human freedom. Claudio also writes about money, banking, and the global economy for the Mises Institute, and we're delighted to have him here today as our guest. Good day, Claudio, and welcome to SBTV. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you very much, Patrick, for having me.
Thanks. We're glad you could be here, Claudio. I read the about page of your website, the part entitled "The Defense of Sound Money and Individual Liberty" with great interest. And I got to ask, what got you interested in sound money and the Austrian School of Economics?
Okay, well, that's a pretty weird story at the end of the day.
Okay.
Because back then I was working, when I was young, I also made my mistakes. So I was working for the United Nations in the Middle East, in Israel and in Syria. And there I took a book along written by Ferdinand Lips, The Gold Wars. And for the first time, I basically got some information which helped me to find the right direction. Stuff which really makes sense from an economical perspective. And so it gave some answers on some fundamental questions I had for a long time, and I always loved history. So I got in touch with Ferdinand Lips, and he basically then pointed me out to the Austrian School of Economics, to Wilhelm Röpke, Friedrich August von Hayek, Ludwig von Mises, and then of course, ended up with Rothbard, Hoppe, and so on. So basically, yeah, it was, and during these 2 years, I also realized, how shitty the United Nations is working, and that supranational organizations are not working at all, and that's part of the oppressive system. And so I think, I was one of the lonely guys leaving that setup, because once you are an expat within the UN, you have a happy life for not doing too much. But I knew that I have to go back and return to the private industry, and that not politics is the solution. I realized that politics is always the problem.
How is individual liberty linked to sound money?
Well, basically it's money needs to be private. Money needs to be a real good. If money is controlled by a centralized entity, which basically can create it out of thin air, ask for interest rates on top of it, decides who is going to receive the credit and who is not going to receive the credit, and how much they have to pay for it, and even use it for bribes. I think, so this artificial centralized monopoly money, I think that's the biggest enemy of liberty. And at the end of the day, whatever we do, every transaction we do, basically money is involved. So we need to have, because we are still living in a barter system in a way. I provide my services and I'm getting paid to provide my services in cash or in gold or whatever. So yeah, if the money is centralized and it's abused, then you're not going to end up in a free society. So therefore, free money, people should be able to decide for themselves what they want to accept as use as money. That needs to be a basis, and that's why gold and silver, yeah, I mean they came out of the market over the last 5,000 years as money, because people always looked at it as precious, and they always understood it. It was divisible. It was easy to transport. It was scarce, so acted as a store of value. And yeah, people, even before they used it as money, they basically were wearing it as a jewelry and so on. Yeah. So yeah, money is really important, but it needs to be private, and it should be up to the people to decide what they want to use and accept as money.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I also saw on your website where you had said liberty dies by inches. Could you put that in context for us?
I mean, I don't believe that the world has ever been free, that we ever lived in a free society when we look back into history. Also, I need to say, the more I love history and the more I read history, the more I realize that it's most likely all fake, especially, the history we have been taught, because Government with its centralized entities, the education system, they can tell us, what history was, because it's based on their interest. And so yeah, we are living in a world where people don't believe any longer that they create their own reality, because the reality is really shaped by a huge propaganda engine based on these government structures, based on international media conglomerates, based on big business. I mean, we are raised even in an education system which is government sponsored. So there they already breed us to become obedient citizens. They breed us in a way that we should always accept a higher authority, that we always should accept rulers that decide on our behalf. So that's the system we are in. I believe we are at the end. We are going towards the end of that period of time, and the future will play out. If people will start to use their own mind and to think independently, independent of another person's guidance, or if they will just fall into the trap to accept another Hegelian dialectic problem reaction solution, and just take a side and fight for it, and then basically end up with the same system as we have anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
It's different phases.
Okay, it's a good point. We've had a number of guests on the show who are proponents of sound money, but none who are Keynesian so far. Can you share with us key beliefs of Keynesian economics about money?
Yeah, Keynes. First of all, Keynes. It's all about central planning. Yeah. These guys believe in that we have to steer the economy from a centralized entity. They also believe that if we have a deflationary or a recession or whatever, that government needs to interfere. The government has to start printing money out of thin air and inject it. And yeah, they have that the monetary system needs to be centralized. That we need central banks, and that it's possible to create money out of thin air. I mean, that's Keynesism. I think Keynes has been also abused a little bit more. I mean, he never has been that extreme as it is today. But the mindset, that's exactly the problem. The reality of most of the people on this planet, they believe that we need to have centralized authorities which are planning economy and the way we live together and so on. And that's the Keynesian mindset. And then, of course, you have as the opposite, you have the Austrian School of Economics, you have Mises, you have Hayek, which basically believe that man is born free and that the individual is rational but can act very irrational, and that you cannot plan the economy, that you need to have free money, sound money, real money, and as less regulations as possible. Because look at free trade agreements. I mean, it's a joke. Do we need free trade agreements which are hundreds of pages? How to regulate free trade? I mean, so you see, the people perception. The problem today is that a lot of people still believe the people perception which has been created by daily inputs, medias, government, and so on. The mindset. And look at the universities. I mean, the universities are really the worst you can find in these days. So the students there are not even capable to entertain an idea without accepting it. They cannot even talk about it. They are for censorship. They start burning books again. They don't accept anybody else with a different opinion. So it just shows, you need the Yaos to change the system again. And when I look at the Yaos in these days, especially in the States, and especially these guys who have spent the most of their time in the government education system and become, parts of the so-called elite because they went to university, and these guys are just, breed communists, and you find them on different areas on this planet. Also in your neighborhood, of course.
Yeah, it's like you said, on the planet, they're all over the world. Keynesian economics and Austrian School of Economics. Are there any similarities between the two?
That's a good question. I mean, it's always about trade. It's all about at the end of the day, both most likely want to. I don't believe that Keynes has been a bad person. He
Yeah.
just believed in the wrong solution, or he was looking for the solution on the wrong side. He was looking on the solution on the government side, and not on the private side. So at the end of the day, both want to have international trade, how to run an economy at the end of the day. One puts the individual in the center and gives him also his natural rights, which are that we are born free, that we are not the means to an end. And of course, Keynes, it's now you become basically just a number, a taxpayer within a system, and you have to fulfill your certain or specific role. And as long as you do it, then it should play out fine. But because it's based on a credit system, which is which creates credit out of thin air, it's doomed, and so you can do all that kind of stuff for a certain period of time. But I think, we have long-term debt cycles, the short-term debt cycles, generational cycles, and I think so. We are all, these cycles all come to an end, and I think we are in the vicinity of the end.
Yeah, because there seems to be some people who do think that there's a positive impact of fiat currency and that it helped to cause quicker development in countries because there was more currency in circulation. Uh, do you agree with that opinion?
I mean, credit is always consume brought forward.
Yeah.
So when you inject credit and you allow people to, the basis for a sound economy is still, from my perspective, it's first you have to earn the money and you have to save the money, and then you can invest. And today the dogma is basically, you can get a loan or a credit and then you just consume. And so, of course, credit is for everyone that is receiving credit, that he gets money. Otherwise he wouldn't be able to buy that specific good or whatever. I mean, he's happy with it, and definitely you can also stimulate the economy for a certain period of time. But I mean, look, since 2008, the guys injected 80 trillions additional credit since 2008. And okay, what is a trillion? And I just made the math. So, for example, 1 million seconds are 8 days, 1 billion seconds are 35 years, and 1 trillion seconds are 32,000 years. So it just shows, we are talking about trillions like, could be $100 or $200. I lost the measure somehow. But I mean, this system is just astonishing. I mean, we are going through a period of time where we never have seen, figures like this. Everything is inflationary, and it's just it's growing exponentially. We have zombie companies in the Eurozone, roughly up 170 to 300,000 companies. I think 1 million in the Eurozone, alone in Germany, roughly 250,000. So we are talking about 50 million employers if those zombie companies go down the drain. I mean, when interest rates go up, these zombie companies will go down the drain.
Yeah, because I think we'd all agree that unbacked fiat has brought about inflation, it's brought about debt. Um, but in the end, these two elements and perhaps even more, what is it going to bring or start to show for us perhaps in the next 2 to 5 years or so?
Yeah, predictions are always difficult, especially when about the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I believe in trends. I truly believe we can because everything is operating in cycles. So, and you can also see certain patterns of the past, which give you an indication and create some trends. So, honestly, the next 3 to 5 years, I truly believe the world is going to change quite heavily. We have this migration crisis over here in the Eurozone. Now we have a UN migration pact, which basically is accelerating immigration into Europe. At the same time, we have a devastating economical environment. So, different cultures, we bumped back that region to the Stone Ages. And now basically our governments are telling, hey, please come all over and live a happy life. So it creates a lot of frictions. We are not allowed to speak freely. I mean, in certain countries, you already have censorization. I mean, Germany, it's pretty hard to say anything against refugees. Part of that UN migration pact is also that you need to have a positive opinion about migration, otherwise you will be jailed. Yeah. So it just shows, I mean, that stuff is coming, and it's going to, if you force people to do something or to accept something they don't want, and at the same time they even have to pay for it, and also that their own living standards are decreasing, I mean, you're going to create problems, of course. Yeah. And then we have, Italy is a big problem in the Eurozone. I mean, the Eurozone overall, we don't know if the Eurozone is going to be there in 5 years' time. I wouldn't bet. I mean, the euro can basically collapse at any time because there are so many systematic risks. And then, of course, you have, the situation in the United States doesn't look better. I mean, you have a big clash about, the Trump fraction and the deep state with Clinton and so on. So there is a lot of, there's a real fight also ongoing. And then we have these geopolitical conflicts. I mean, Ukraine is back in the news again. Therefore, a possible, war with Russia is, you can read more about that stuff. We have China, which is exporting. I mean, I don't know if China is a peaceful country also in the future. I have the feeling that they really created this communist man with all these surveillance technologies and all that stuff. So, I mean, you see that trend, and I hope it's not coming over to the Western side. So the future doesn't look that bright. Stock markets are on the top level. Yeah. We have credit. Credit in the corporate sector is at the highest peak ever. So I mean, we are just the next 3 to 5 years. I think a lot of people are going to be impoverished, or at least lose a lot of their artificial wealth. If they're somehow invested in real estate, bonds, stock markets, whatever, I think everything is overvalued, and so there, some air needs to be let out of the balloon, and if it's going to be deflationary crash, or if it will be a kind of managed bear market with some recovery in between, everything is possible. I think the trend is down. The trend is definitely downwards, and not the upside potential is, I think, close to zero, and the downside potential is just tremendous.
Claudio, what do you think is the biggest hindrance to returning to a sound monetary system right now?
Yeah, I think people most likely will not. They will just. They will not understand early enough why they would need sound money.
Good point.
So I think this system is going to collapse. We're going to end up, as always, big depression. Real estate is going to lose 90%. Close to 100. Stocks are going to, So the people are not ready. They haven't. At the same time, they also. It's a system of collective corruption. And we in the West, we have heavily profited from that system, because we basically were able to borrow and consume, and on the back on the rest of the world, of course, in a way. So, and we live in a house, and we still have a job, and we can pay the credit card invoices, because we have 10 credit cards.
And one is paying the other. And
yeah. And we are driving, a nice car, which we have leased for 7 years. So, that's at stake. And everyone is indebted. And that's why also, gold is the money for the kings, silver is the money for the bourgeoisie, and debt is the money for the slaves. So a lot of these people are enslaved. So they are trapped. And then they are spinning the wheel, so they have no time to think about what's really going on, to think about, does it make sense that when our government is telling us have to weaken the currency to be successful in the future, and that this makes us richer, does that really make sense? Stuff like this, and therefore, yeah, I think that's why sound money is going to. I think sound money is with blockchain. I'm a strong believer in blockchain.
Okay.
I don't believe. I don't know what I should think about cryptocurrencies or even Bitcoin. I have no clue if they are a store of value. But the whole concept of the blockchain, and that is going to, the internet also had two sides. Every coin has two sides. So the internet basically, since we have the internet, everyone can spy on us. Government knows everything. So it's, it has been heavily abused and so on. But on the other side, they lost the control over the information monopoly. And now with blockchain, basically, there is, in the short run, because it's regulated, it goes through central exchanges and so on, there is more transparency. It's again, for the government on spying, and so they have more possibilities also there. But on the other side, they are losing the control over the money monopoly.
Yeah.
Because blockchain is going to be property titles, digitalized property titles for an ounce of gold, for a ton of steel, whatever, shoes. So at the end, and because it's a fully decentralized idea, and it's based on the fully decentralized internet, so it's going to free the people in the midterm. So I truly believe it's empowering the individual, and it's a game changer, and that blockchain will be leading us, also towards more sound money, because then everything can become money, but every real good can become money at the end of the day. And I truly believe that gold and silver will be the most liquid one. And so I'm positive for the mid run. Krugman said back in 1999 that we will see by 2005 that the internet had no bigger impact than the invention of the fax machine. And so it just shows, those intellectual idiots like Nassim Taleb said that, of course, not I did that. It just shows, the world can change pretty fast. And look at the last 150, 200 years. It's amazing. Industrial revolution, internet revolution. So, the world really can change extremely fast. And overall, we always moved into the better direction. That was more freedom. And so the trend, when you look over civilizations in the long run, the trend has been positive. And so let's be positive also for the next portion of time.
Okay. Yeah, I think you mentioned that we are in some type of a transition from the current monetary system to a new monetary system. Do you think gold is going to have a role in that new monetary system?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, we in the age of internet, we also need internet money. And because we need internet money, it means we're going to have global trading platforms. And there's one company over here in Switzerland which is organizing that, and I'm looking into their technology. So it's a global trading platform where everyone can basically digitalize real goods, real services. Yeah. You have to solve the custodian issue, of course, whenever hard assets are involved. If you don't have a direct exchange, or you can ship it, whatever. But this is, we're going to have a global trading platform independent of government regulations, and we will be able to have, decentralized communication, decentralized production, decentralized law, and decentralized financial system. So, gold will be definitely, gold is extremely liquid, and we're going to trade goods and stuff also in the future. And I still believe, I would rather prefer to be paid in gold than in steel or in wheat or whatever. So.
Okay, we got a lot of silver lovers out here, and I can hear them asking me to ask you this question. How about silver? Will that see a monetary role again?
I think so. I think so. I mean, silver has. I mean, even gold was really more on a king's level among international big trading partners, among monarchs and so on. But silver was really the money of the people.
Yeah.
And so I truly believe silver will. I mean, gold and silver both are money.
Yeah.
So silver will become money again. And right now, of course, because you're mentioning silver and most likely also the price. I mean, now it's what 86 times, 85 times cheaper than gold.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's a fantastic buy. I'm sure it's important that when you buy it, do it in the right way. Go for coins. Make sure that you have it in a go for coins. Keep it as liquid as possible, and it's a great present. And if you should never use money that you need in the next few years. If you buy physical gold and silver, but if you don't need the money, let's say in the next 5 years or even longer, I think it's one of the best deals you can do. And so silver has a bright future as well, definitely.
Okay. Claudio, my friend, I think you just made a lot of people happy and gained a lot more new fans by mentioning your sentiment on silver. But what do you say to comments that there's not enough gold to back the fiat currencies that are created today?
Yeah, I mean, that's of course it's bullshit. This might. Who cares? I mean, it's if there is not enough gold, I mean, then you just put up the price or let find the market price for gold. If it's in a free market. No, that's no problem at all. I mean, I think there is plenty of gold, and so the quantity is never the issue.
Okay.
I mean, the quantity is an issue most of the time. What we have seen, we have much more paper and credit digits that we need, and that's the other side. I mean, so I truly believe that, when you have a sound money, when you have, then basically you also profit that that if you save today, if I put gold on the side today, and I know, and I say this is my savings for, which I need maybe in 10 or 15 years. I'm 100% certain that in 10 to 15 years, that gold will be much more worth, that the purchasing power has increased. Yeah, so I mean, they cannot steal it, they cannot print it away. So yeah, that's the beauty of sound money, that it's gaining in purchasing power over time, and that and it makes you independent. It's the basis for your individual sovereignty because you own it, and no one can basically they can only steal it, but all the rest is not possible.
You mentioned crypto. Perhaps that might be future money coming on down the road. We mentioned gold, how gold should return to having a monetary status. Do you think the two will ever combine where perhaps we'll have gold-backed crypto that may be the future money coming on down the road?
Yeah, I mean, I see definitely, it makes sense to have a gold-backed crypto. And I'm also working. I'm working on such a cryptocurrency. Okay, it has slightly a different concept. It's involving a little bit more of risk. So you have to address. It should be a kind of stable coin. That's the idea behind it. But okay, to go back to your initial question, yes, absolutely. I mean, cryptos. The way I see cryptocurrencies is we're going to see thousands more of them, and their intrinsic value will be the services the company is providing or the technology that is involved, and that will give them a certain price or certain intrinsic value. Yeah. But because there is constant competition, it will also lead that all these cryptos must lose in worth over time. So that's a little bit the way I look at. I'm sure a lot of crypto guys now would kill me for that phrase, and of course I don't know. I leave it open. I mean, I don't know the future neither. I mean, it's just the way I look at that stuff. But I don't believe that you can just now create thousands of Bitcoins or big cryptocurrencies, which everyone is going to be, a huge fortune just because it has been invented and it's a digitalized nothing. So, but physical backed cryptocurrencies, definitely. That can add, you need to have reputation. You can build up a brand. You can become a gold bank, for example, and hand over your own crypto currency backed up by physical gold, and you can pick it up and whatever. So that will always, that's definitely, I think, the future.
Yeah, because it seems a bit biased. Where I think when I do talk to a lot of gold silver guys, they they can see crypto if it's backed by gold, silver, whatever precious metals may be. But when crypto guys, when I speak to crypto guys, they're like, no, 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 no. It can't be backed by gold, can't be backed by silver because it's confiscatable. So I'm always curious why gold and silver guys can see it being backed by crypto, but crypto guys are like, no, it shouldn't be backed by anything.
Yeah, I mean, that's, of course, that's the best argument, definitely. When you look at, because whenever you have a physical backed crypto, then you always have a jurisdictional risk, because the physical stuff is stored in a certain jurisdiction. And if the government gets too much power or control, they can basically come up with confiscation or whatever. So and I think that's the point that these crypto guys are addressing, because of course, when you have a Bitcoin is digitalized nothing. It has no counterparty risk. I mean, it's just digital.
Yeah.
So you cannot. It's not stored somewhere in a jurisdiction usually, and therefore this risk is excluded. And I think that's the point where the crypto guys that they bring up. What you have said before.
Claudio, you mentioned on your website that you also hold physical silver yourself. Why are you holding silver? Why not just gold?
Because I'm in the gold business not because I believe it's a marketing gag, or I'm happy to criticize the system, and it's a hobby of mine. I truly believe that. I'm buying physical gold because I truly believe that's my pension fund. That's the money for my kids. That's my insurance against all these risks. So therefore, I purchase gold and silver, most of it in coins. With a gold coin, when you look back into history, I mean, with an ounce of gold during the Weimar Republic, you purchased a villa in Berlin. So an ounce of gold has a huge purchasing power in certain periods of events, or and therefore, I try to keep it as liquid as possible. But for the smaller stuff, if I would have to pay the butcher or the farmer, then I could use silver. I believe a silver coin most likely will pay my family per month a chicken every day or whatever. So silver is more. You need silver for smaller stuff. Gold is really, for the big stuff.
Yeah.
House, cars, whatever. So that's why I have silver.
Okay. And
As well.
okay, and let's say we talked about the ratio a little bit earlier. We're roughly at about 85 to 1 or so right now. Let's say it comes down 85, 80, 75, all the way down to, let's say, perhaps 50, 40 to 1, and let's say silver is $500 per ounce at that point. If the world is exactly as it is today, would you sell your silver for $500 an ounce?
I personally, I don't speculate with my metals. I really accumulate, and I put it on the side, and once I have it, then I have it. If I need liquidity, then I can always sell it.
Yeah.
But I don't speculate. So I was also not. I started buying in 2004. I didn't sold in 2011 because I had no clue. Going up, going down, blah blah. So it's And at the end of the day, I just know, these are my savings. And at the end of the day, what I need to know is that it will pay out in the future.
Okay.
And so
Okay. Yeah.
I wouldn't. But of course, you have different. I mean, but you can speculate as well. I mean, I know some of these guys, and they did some good trades. I mean,
Yeah.
it's up to the individual what he what kind of strategy he's pursuing.
The current system we have now, if you had a crystal ball, how much longer do you think it would last?
Yeah, the crystal ball.
Yeah. And after you use it, I'll borrow it for a few things too.
Yeah, I mean, it's really. I mean, of course, it's hard to say. I
Yeah,
mean,
sure.
but what can be said is, I mean, as I say, the next, let's say 2, 3, 4, 5 years, big changes will occur most likely, and it will not be positive ones. And at the same time, the guys, if they want to keep that system running for longer, then of course they have to take away more of our freedoms, more of our liberties. They have to come up with more political correctness. They have to divide us even further. So if they are successful in doing this, then it can maybe last another 10 years or 20 years. I really don't know. I mean, I think, as I said, I mean, people, yeah, you can manipulate people up to a certain stage, but at the end of the day, I still believe that we are spiritual beings. We're not just a piece of meat. I believe that we are reasonable, and because we can use reason, it moves us directly towards the good. So I believe at a certain level, more. I mean, that's what we can see over the last 10 years. I mean, 10 years or 15 years, I really felt pretty lonely as a freedom-loving individual, criticizing the system, criticizing the government, our monetary system. And today we have, Facebook groups. I mean, so it's or you have the Mises Institute, or you have good foundation for economic education. You have individuals which are supporting individual liberties which understood it, and so yeah, it's, I don't know. I really don't know how long it can last, but I believe we can prepare. We cannot predict the future, but we can prepare for it.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we can talk to other people about what we believe are the true values, the principles of liberty, stuff like this, which is basically, we are born, I think, with those kind of principles. If we wouldn't haven't been that much brainwashed, but people, once you remember them, I mean, then you see that the spirit of freedom, and I think that's what's going on.
Claudio, before we wrap up, could you tell us more about what you do?
Yeah, I mean, I'm independent, so I'm an independent precious metal advisor based out in Switzerland. I basically help clients from all over the world, can be private individuals, high net worth individuals, institutional clients. If they are looking for physical gold or physical silver, I advise them how to buy, where to buy, how to store, where to store. I look in all the little details because I don't trust governments. So I advise, everything needs to be compliant. We have to play by the rules. That's important. But I look into the little details to make sure that whatever happens, that my customers are not going to lose their gold. And so that we are, Switzerland is a great jurisdiction still. I mean, we lost a lot of credit. A lot of things have changed also over here in Switzerland over the last 25 years especially. But overall, when it comes to private property rights outside the banking system, I think whenever you buy physical gold or silver, it needs to be out of the system, because I don't trust the banking regulations and all that stuff in a crisis scenario. But I mean, you need to have safe jurisdiction. And of course, Switzerland and also Liechtenstein is offering that kind of structure where the power of the politicians is limited, and therefore property rights are protected best.
Okay. Is Switzerland the only jurisdiction that you advocate your clients to store their gold and silver?
I mean, for the time being, yes, to be honest. I mean, I built up a company in the past in the physical gold business. So there we were also storing in Singapore and Hong Kong. And now I think they even expanded to New Zealand. But I don't know. I mean, of course, the future lies in the East, most likely. Europe and the Western world seems to become more the bigger problem. But for the time being, I truly believe, keep, yeah, just, Singapore is also, I mean, it's a city state, so I love it from that kind of concept. But you have a strong family there. And as far as I know, free press. So you have certain limitations, which I believe should not be a problem in the long run. It could be, could or not. But for the time being, I just say, yeah, let's do it for my clients. But I have other clients. If they're saying, I have to diversify internationally, I want to diversify international, then definitely I would also, I think the only jurisdictions I would support is Singapore is definitely one among them. Hong Kong, I mean, also there, you have the Chinese, and I don't trust the Chinese system. I think.
Yeah. Hey, don't say that. They might be listening.
They might be.
Okay. Hey, Claudio, can you pass your website to our listeners, and also Twitter if you have any other social media?
Yeah. Well, basically, they can go on my webpage. It's claudiograss.ch. So I also write on a regular basis about geopolitics, economy, and so on, history. And they also find me on Twitter and Facebook. So, but I subscribe on my webpage. It's free. And maybe, once a week or once in 2 weeks, you receive an update from my site, stuff that I have written. So I'm not spamming the people. It's the Swiss way of how getting the better ideas out.
Well, I think your love of silver and gold is going to have a lot of our viewers curious as to who you are on your website. So we'll try and send them your way.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Very much appreciated.
Yeah, thank you, Claudio. I hope we can do this again sometime, and we do wish you all the best. That was Claudio Grass with his views on sound money, freedom, and precious metals. To find out more about Claudio's work, please visit his website, www.claudiograss.ch. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to the SBTV channel to be updated on new content, and do also check out the SBTV podcast on iTunes and Spotify.